Okay, a group called The Frontier, a journalistic group, has looked into what they say some fact checks on what you're saying about how people in Oklahoma feel about abortion. They cite a Pew Research study. They say the most recent numbers they have are from 2014, found that 51% of Oklahoman respondents believed abortion should be legal in all or most cases. So within the last few years, they say your state was pretty evenly split, actually, on this issue.
Well, some of those some of those different facts or those newspapers that you're quoting are not what we find with the people in Oklahoma. These bills, the representatives are elected from all over the state of Oklahoma, probably 80–90% passage in our state. So I totally disagree with those numbers.
Okay, so let's talk about another law that you've signed, much like in what your neighboring state, Texas, has done, allows for private causes of action for anyone who attempts, completes, or facilitates an abortion. This can be including someone who pays for one after a heartbeat is detected, roughly 6 weeks. We've got brand new Fox News polling on this and how people feel about at that 6-week mark. About 50% say they think at 6 weeks abortion should remain legal. Now, your law, as I understand it, has no exceptions for rape or incest, and the argument is a victim may not know at 6 weeks that she is pregnant. So what do you say to a woman who finds herself in that situation, lives in your state, and feels like she's got no options?
Well, first off, super compassionate about that. I have daughters, cannot even imagine what that would be like and that hardship. But you have to choose. That is a human being inside the womb, and we're gonna do everything we can to protect life and love both the mother and the child. And we don't think that killing one to protect another is the right thing to do either. And our heart is super compassionate about that. We want the churches, we want all the services, the state, the nonprofits to come around with adoption services, and that's super, super hard. And we're going to do everything we can to help them, but aborting that child we don't think is the right thing to do.
Okay, so let's talk through some of those issues, because you know it's one of the main critiques of the pro-life position. So in Oklahoma, to look at the stats of what a woman is facing there with a child, 21.3% of children live below the poverty line. 71% of SNAP participants are in families with children, and Oklahoma ranked 42nd overall in child well-being. A Washington Post opinion headline puts it this way: the GOP roars about abortion, then they abandon the children. So what is the plan in Oklahoma to help women, if you're advising them to carry through on these pregnancies when they are up against some real challenges?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. Is the answer to the socialist Democrat left to abort poor kids? I mean, that's just ridiculous to even kind of quote those type of stats. We have a free market in Oklahoma. We believe that God has a special plan for every single life and every single child, and we want everybody to have the same opportunities in Oklahoma.
Okay, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt spewed a lot of garbage in this interview, but absolutely nothing even comes close to him responding when asked what he'd say to a woman who didn't even know she was pregnant before a 6-week abortion ban would prevent her from getting an abortion. His response is, quote, super compassionate about that. I have daughters. I can't even imagine what that would be like. First of all, yeah, nothing quite says super compassionate like literally preventing women from exercising any autonomy over their own bodies. Nothing says super compassionate like stripping women of rights that they've enjoyed for half a century. Nothing says super compassionate like disrespecting the popular will of those very people while forcing the government between a woman and her doctor. Not for nothing, but I'm not entirely convinced that this guy actually knows what the word compassionate means. And second, also on this point, he says the words, I can't even imagine what that would be like. Exactly. That's the whole point. When it comes to a man who admittedly can't even imagine what this situation would be like, is that really the best person to make these decisions? Is that really the best person who should be dictating how people who could imagine or who have experienced these things should be behaving? Maybe, just maybe, we stop allowing people who have zero expertise or experience or clue about something control over governing those things. Now, when confronted with the fact that even in a reliably red state like Oklahoma, the majority of people still favor abortion protections, Stitt does what every Republican does, and he simply denies the facts. He claims, after being shown the numbers, that those numbers aren't what he's seeing. He doesn't like those numbers, and so he's decided that he's going to use different numbers. This is where we're at in politics today. Whenever there are facts that aren't convenient for Republicans, they just deny the existence of those facts. It is the adult version of just, La 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 la. And then finally, when actually confronted with the fact that Oklahoma ranks all the way at the bottom in terms of quality of life that Oklahomans and children in particular experience in that state of course uses the opportunity to attack the quote, socialist Democrats while praising the free market Republicans in Oklahoma. Not for nothing, but if you're gonna follow up being confronted with the fact that your state has a bunch of kids living in poverty and on food stamps as the right moment to praise your quote, free market system, that's not exactly doing your argument any favors. In fact, of the 15 states with the highest child poverty rate, 13 voted for Trump. And of the 15 states with the lowest child poverty rate, 9 voted for Biden. So if Stitt wants to make this a Democrat versus Republican thing to distract from his own stance, that's fine, but he really is doing the Democrats' work for them. The fact is that on every metric, Republicans have failed to show that they care even mildly about life. They fall over themselves grandstanding about protecting these babies, and yet they vote against childcare. They vote against early education. They vote against universal pre-K. They vote against the child tax credit. They vote against SNAP, where half the recipients are children. They vote against Medicaid, where again, half the recipients are children. The only thing it seems that Republicans are actually for is forcing women to give birth. And then after that forced government intervention, well, it's more of a hands-off approach. So look, these Republicans will twist themselves into pretzels explaining why a position supported by only 28% of Americans is somehow the right one, but what they don't seem to realize is that it's not their decision what a woman does with her own body. And it just goes to show that they're not actually about small government in the slightest. They are about consolidating power for themselves and imposing their own theology on everyone else. To see more videos like this one, click the subscribe button right here on the screen. And to support my work beyond that, check out my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I cover the week's most important stories and interview the biggest players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, and so many more. Again, that's No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. The link is also right here on the screen, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. And finally, you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat by searching Brian Tyler Cohen.